Welcome to Thriving the Future podcast, where we're finding positive solutions to thrive in the tough times ahead. Episode 13, a parallel economy is not what you think it is.
So everybody talks about parallel economy. We're getting closed down and we're getting constricted and persecuted, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to create a parallel economy. We're going to create parallel structures, right? A parallel economy really is setting up a shadow market.
Yeah.
Right?
What I said is it's a trap.
Yeah, it's a trap. And right.
Slow down.
Go ahead.
Let that sink in, because
It's a trap.
You've heard this several times.
Yeah.
They've not.
Right. But wait a minute. Aren't we supposed to be building? I mean, this guy says that we're supposed to be building parallel economy, and Gab is saying we need a parallel economy, and
It ignores the problem.
uh-huh.
The problem is not the economy.
Okay.
The problem is not the government.
Uh-huh.
And so the solution is not new government
Right.
or a new economy. The problem is we believe, certain of us believe, that we have the right to tell another person what to do.
Okay.
We believe that some of us believe that to our core.
Yeah.
Some of us are trying to recover from that.
Yeah. Even the people that say they don't.
Use government to do it.
Right. And if they were in power, they would use government to do it.
Even if they're not, they do it every day. They say
Should be a law. There should be a law. Right?
It shouldn't happen again.
Ooh, yeah. Good.
Right?
Yep.
It shouldn't happen again. There should be a law. Somebody should do something.
Or this shouldn't have happened to me. I don't deserve this.
What's the first thing they didn't do?
Take
Take responsibility for their own life.
Right.
To take responsibility for your own life, you have to acknowledge what your life is, that you're human, that there are limitations, that you cannot own another person, because that's what you're saying.
Sure.
You also have to acknowledge you cannot control everything that happens.
Circle of influence, circle of control.
Right. You can't control gravity.
Right.
You can modify the laws
And you can't.
so that flight becomes a controlled crash, right?
Right. And to some extent, you can't control the bumpkin neighbor who's going to drive his four-wheel on your land when you're not there. So,
There's a lot.
right.
You can't control whether it rains, snows, sleets. You can't control whether your hair grows, whether it falls out, whether it changes color. You cannot. There's a lot of things you cannot control.
Right.
You have to give up that control and acknowledge you're human. Humans make mistakes. There are things humans can't control. We want to say we can hire these technocrats who will be the smart people that know all the answers.
Right.
We want to say computers and technology will transform us into a being that does not die.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And that's a key, especially
Or that doesn't have a disability, right? Or doesn't
old.
Doesn't get old,
Yeah.
doesn't die, doesn't lose their memory, doesn't lose their cognitive abilities, right?
Yeah. And once again, that goes back to the I deserve, and this shouldn't have to happen to me.
The real problem is everybody trying to create a parallel system or a shadow economy or a parallel economy and those things is really saying, I do not want to suffer. So I am going to just move the clock back a little ways and procrastinate the suffering.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite topics, so I'm glad we're talking about this.
And what I found was, because I was trying to understand how to do this, because one, I don't want to suffer, but I know it's going to happen.
Right.
But how do we build once we hit that bottom? How do we build up? Right. Somebody's got to figure that out. So I was reading Václav Havel's Power of the Powerless, and I realized something. Everybody says that parallel structures and parallel economies, parallel economies and parallel systems come from that. That's not the word he uses. He uses the word parallel structure, and I understand that that's a translation of the language escapes me right now, but it's translated into English.
Isn't he Czechoslovakian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd probably be Czech, but I don't remember if it was Czech or Polish. It's anyway.
One of the two.
It's a translation. And so some people can be trying to improve the translation or picked it up somewhere else.
Sure.
But it's not the same idea. When I read him talking about it, he is talking about people that got together to do things that humans do, that all humans have in common. All humans there are rare exceptions for every rule, right? But like music.
Right.
That is a common shared thing widely across human beings, right?
Sure.
And when you put a bunch of rules around it and say, you can't do this with music, when somebody hears music that breaks those rules and it's cool, let's just say rock and roll or whatever, I don't remember the exact examples. Right?
Yeah, whatever
was outlawed.
Yeah, whatever tests that limit, right?
Somebody wants to do it. Not being allowed to do it.
Sure.
Not following that inbuilt sense is a denying of your humanity. And this is what technocracy, totalitarianism, and post-totalitarianism does.
Right.
They get you to believe you are not human and these things are not normal. It is not normal to want enough to eat. It is not normal. They tell you those things. And this is the point of Live Not by Lies, when it's quoted from Solzhenitsyn and in the book itself, right?
Correct.
Is that you have to not cooperate with those lies. You have to be in line with truth, with humanness, with that. You have to have empathy for other people. Saying, not having mercy, totalitarianism says not having mercy is a good thing. That's not human. We don't beat up a toddler that can't walk yet. We don't. We have mercy on people that need to improve, that need to learn something more, right? That is a normal thing. But we're living a lie that everybody is perfect and nobody needs mercy. There are never extenuating circumstances. The rules always apply. We're hitting that in current time. We hit it a long time ago. It happens over and over and over. And so a parallel structure, as he uses the word, comes from people living that way, not living by those lies, confronting those lies by not living on them. Their goal is not to take over. Their goal is not to create a government. Their goal is not to stand up and protest. Their goal is to be in line with truth and who they are as a person.
So how do you know how far you go? So
go with what?
With Live Not by Lies, right? So
are you asking me where the gray area is?
No. I'm saying that, is it always black and white?
Is what always black and white?
When someone's asking you to do something that's not necessarily wrong, but it's not right either.
There are no solutions.
Yeah.
There are only trade-offs.
Trade-offs, right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You're looking for rigid, rule-based solutions to live inside of, to be the perfect human, to always do the right thing, to not have to have mercy on anyone. Does this ring any bells with...
Yeah.
You're looking for the totalitarian solution to a moral quandary.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. So we talked about pretty much everybody's doing this, even the people that think they're not. So even the libertarians
I
that are
do
like,
it.
yeah, I know, but even the libertarians that are doing we're going to do the non-aggression principle, right? All of them think that
What it is a denying of the spirit of the law and only following the words. The non-aggression principle does not mean I can't defend myself.
right.
The non-aggression principle is not a hard, rigid
not,
thing.
but yeah.
There is a spirit to it, right? It is,
Right.
I am not going to aggress on other people. I am not going to do that. That is the principle.
Sure.
It's a principle, not a rule, not a
But it's also
law.
It's also a withdrawal instead of an engagement, right? So so I've got the non-aggression principle. I want to go and I want to I'm going to go get some land, and I'm going to be there, and you better damn well leave me alone, right? So
That's very aggressive.
We'll have we'll have community, but it's only when I want community, right? And that's that's a big problem with preppers and everything else, right? Pretty much. So, and to some extent some homesteaders. But the key is so you're not aggressing anyone. Are you showing empathy? Are you being human to that person?
Yes, you've created a totalitarian situation inside your example. You've created a totalitarian situation in which you are not being human, so you are living by the lie.
Okay.
That takes owning property, which is a good thing,
Sure.
which is a legitimate thing,
Sure.
and twists it and turns it into something else. It takes the non-aggression principle, which is a good thing, and twists it into something else.
Turns it into my compound that I'm going to defend.
It turns it into my ability to live by the lie. That I can create a perfect world. That I can build heaven on earth.
Ooh.
You can't build heaven on earth without God.
Right. And to some extent your fellow man.
Right. But you can't build it
Right.
because you're not perfect. One of my favorite quotes about art, I don't have the notebook here, but I'll come close anyway,
Right.
is humans copy. And they copy their heroes. They do it imperfectly. And that makes it art. That
Okay.
imperfect copying, that imperfect mimicking of a painting creates a new style. Becomes a whole new movement in art.
Right.
And more people copy it. And so they copy it. They copy the style, but they do it with sunflowers versus moonbeams versus cows versus whatever.
And to some extent, that's one of the power of the memes, too, is that it copies it just enough to get the message across in one or two pictures and one line, right?
Yes, it's a derivative art. So there is a place for having your own land. There is a place for being self-sufficient. But if the result of that is you being inhuman, not associating with other people, not being social, getting your own way and not accepting the trade-offs, becoming perfect, then it hasn't made owning the property wrong, but it's made everything you're doing wrong. And it's a problem with you.
Okay.
And it's a problem for everybody else. Because the sum total results and consequences of everybody's individual actions comes together and gives us the world we live in. One person doing that becomes two. becomes 10, becomes 1,000, becomes 1,000,000.
Right.
And now you have a nation doing it.
So, looking at the spirit of what folks are saying about a parallel economy is if you are frozen out of, because of tough times, because of government mandates, because of whatever else, if you're frozen out of the market or you're unemployed and you're looking at a side hustle, they're talking about this is a parallel economy, almost like, unfortunately, Gab says this all the time, that, it's a Christian economy. Or it's
the problem
or they
is...
quote Malcolm X and they say that,
Malcolm X is great. What are they quoting about Malcolm X? I'm not on Gab. What are they...
About how basically Malcolm X said that the black community should have their own economy as well, instead of depending on
Why should they have?
the outside.
Do you know why he said they should have?
Well,
One, they were pushed
illuminate.
outside, right?
Sure, yeah.
But two, his goal was to create a system where they were not being oppressed. A system that acknowledged they were human.
Right.
That's different
Okay.
than, I don't like the government now, and I don't like what they have done, so I'm going to go create my own economy, separate from their economy, and create a government. And it's not the creating the government that's bad. Part of the idea that's wrong there is, if goods don't cross borders, troops do. You have declared war. You have put yourself on a trajectory. You have locked yourself in with the intention that I am going to beat this other guy.
Right.
And I'm going to beat him at his game. But you're playing the wrong game.
Okay, so
You're,
how do you
you're
play
playing
the right game?
totalitarianism against a totalitarian. You accept that times are going to get really bad. That you are going to have to suffer. And you are going to have to band together with other people just being human.
Sure.
And getting along. Surviving. Unfortunately, thriving the future can be very difficult sometimes because you have to survive for a long period till the sum total choices by the people lead to consequences where you can thrive and be free again.
Interesting. But there's a certain amount of thriving in there at the same time, if you're...
You are thriving in certain areas and not others, right?
Well,
you are
that's
thriving
what-
in
trade-off.
being human and having a life.
Trade-offs, right?
Right.
So, that's the way it is anyway. Everything you do, you're going to thrive in some things, but not necessarily in other things as part of the trade-off, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you're choosing which those are.
Yeah.
And when you get to a level where it's live not by lies,
So, yeah.
you have a very, very, very small window.
So I think of only one other podcast that's even talking about suffering. People are going, hell, I don't like this. I'm turning this off. So...
Which podcast? Or,
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
No, but sorry.
Yeah, right.
Anyway,
So, but
facts.
but see, and that's part of the reality, and part of the getting over the denial and being able to be honest with ourselves that there are tough times ahead. We may not, go back to the before time, right? Before 2020, and
You mean before year zero?
yeah, we could go off about that for a while, but
No, we're 2 years in to the world.
yeah, right, exactly. But people
Some
still
total
think we're going bad.
consequences matter a whole lot 2 years into the world.
Sure.
That's why everybody needs to be working on habits, lifestyle, and intention, not resolutions. Because resolutions are not going to lead to change. And all of us have to change if this is going to get better.
Correct.
and not enough of us are choosing to change.
A lot of folks have asked us about the barter blanket. So
Yeah.
one of the keys of a barter blanket is the key of that being human.
Partially.
And I'm going to paraphrase what you said the other night. So
Go ahead.
so I mean, it used to be that if you met somebody, you know, say you were a Bedouin or whatever else, right? That or you even, you know, would socialize with somebody that you just met. What do you do first? You talk about the common thing. You talk about the weather, right?
That would be a common
Hey, is it snowing up there in Milwaukee today? That's what we talk about on Zoom call. So,
Okay. You know?
and things like that. And nobody really cares about that, but that breaks the ice and gets us onto a common ground, right?
Okay, yeah.
And acknowledges our humanity. And then if you were
Done correctly, yes.
yeah. And the way it used to be would be then you would have a conversation. You would either share some tea, share some coffee, or something like that, and then have a conversation about your mutual likes,
Right.
or if you lived really close to somebody, then you
Yeah.
would talk about your your potential common ancestors, right?
Right.
Oh yeah, you know him. Yeah, I'm his uncle, or something like that.
I grew up in the same town as you. Do you remember the gas station that was
Yeah,
over on
Right.
7th and
Right. So you're making a rapport with the other person. You're coming to a common ground.
which is called empathy.
Yeah, empathy, right. And then bringing out the blanket is just what they used to do, where you'd lay out the blanket and you'd start bringing out some of your lesser items
Right.
and say, hey, you know, I got this thing. What do you got to trade? And
Right.
you trade. It might be a shotgun shell. It might be, you know, or whatever else. You really
Glass beads,
well, yeah, back
wampum, shells.
Yeah.
The
back far enough, yeah.
right.
Right.
It could be anything. Now.
And then you're taking your rapport and your and your commonality to the next level,
right.
right?
You want me to tell you what I didn't say the other night?
Okay.
The barter blanket is for the other.
For the other, the visitor.
The person outside your tribe, your clique, your family, your town, your neighborhood,
Sure.
your society, your community, your fellowship, whatever that thing is, right?
Right.
That is how you interact with them.
Uh-huh.
Inside that group, you don't have a barter blanket.
Yeah, that's true.
You have
A reciprocity.
reciprocity, but you have something deeper where I do something for you, knowing you will do something for somebody else in the community at some point. Because we are thriving together. We can either survive individually, we can survive together, or we can just do things for each other because it causes thriving.
Right.
But when we meet the person that's on the outside, we have to find a way to get along, trade, goods cross borders,
Sure.
or troops do, right?
Sure.
That's fundamental to history. So doing the barter blanket, everybody keeps telling me it's about building community. It's not. It's about learning to build connection with the other.
Because you already have connection with your close community.
Right. The problem is no one has community right now.
Correct. Yeah.
So the
and-
barter blank is the other. It is how we are going to eventually possibly get to community.
and
But
get to
then
the
that
point
skill will be needed with the other.
and it also develops the community without the full focus on reciprocity. So, like one of our friends said that if you did something for your mother or your brother, would you charge them for it? No, you wouldn't, right?
Right.
So, I mean, you get to the point where if you're in close community with your close friends or whatever else, you're usually not going to charge them for something, and or you might say, hey, you want to go in on a part with me or whatever else, right? So,
Or I will fix your car. You cover the cost of the parts.
yeah.
Because I don't have the cash.
Yeah, sure. And then it's not mushy gushy like you pass it on to someone else. It's just known that this is the kind of community
people are
we have.
helping us all thrive,
Right.
and these people are slacking off. How long are we going to let them slack? Oh, they've been slacking off too much. I am not helping you peel potatoes. Right? That happens. And that person goes, wait a minute, I'm becoming the outsider.
And then
They go, I better get involved or I'm really out, right? That's all normal.
sure.
But that's not what we're told community is.
Right.
We're told community is everybody that lives inside this geographic border belongs to the city. The people outside that, inside this geographic border, live in the township. And the ones outside of that, we have the county border. And then we have these state borders. And then those are your communities. It's not about shared value. When we actually share values, you and I highly prize people with skills.
Sure.
We prize goods made with skills. All goods are made with some level of skills, right? But an individual who has developed their skill to craftsman level, is their good is more important to us than that, right? And someone we know who is developing that skill or is a craftsman in a thing is more worth our investing in than someone we don't.
Go ahead.
Every
sorry.
time we go to Walmart, when we could have done business with this person either struggling to become a craftsman or that is a craftsman,
Sure.
we get more Walmarts, not more craftsmen. That's investing in a person's humanness, their skill, and that because they get their dignity, their pride, their self-worth from those things they crafted. That builds them up as a person, and so therefore is a more human thing than the unhuman non-interactions.
Yeah, definitely. Right.
So we need to become people that value that thing and make that a habit. And that's part of saying, what is it that I want more of in my life, and what is it I want less of in my life? What is my perfect day like? And since it's all trade-offs, we're not going to get our perfect day. I get it. How do we have more days closer to that day than not? The person that's going to live that perfect day, who are they? What do they do every day? What do they do every week? What do they do every month? What do they do every year? What do they do in this season? What do they do in that situation? And start moving yourself slowly towards doing those things.
Yep.
And then find people that share those things. You know, if you're buying coffee from the person that roasts at home, right? Well, the person that does that knows somebody that does that. If you don't know anybody that does that, then you need to talk to everybody you can till you find somebody that does. And then you buy from them because that's the person you intended to be, right?
Right.
That's that simple.
Or you see this or hear about it, and then when I hear about stuff like that, I say, I wonder how you do that. And then I research it, and then I try it, and then I do it myself, and then I have it as a skill, and then I bring it to the community.
And that's a good thing
so
too,
XYZ
right?
person over here has their own side hustle, but they're not part of our community.
Right.
They've got a coffee business.
Here's a trade-off that's really, really hard. Pick a skill that you're a craftsman at, and then not do it, and go buy from somebody that's less of a craftsman than you because you need society. You need that socialization. They need to come up to that level because everybody can try and be 100% self-reliant, self-resilient, not need anyone.
Right.
But if I go support that person trying to become a craftsman at the skill I already have, I can go practice other ones. I can free up my free time. I could go help that person become a better craftsman.
Good.
Right?
Yep.
It's more than, ooh, that's a cool skill I would like to have, so I'm going to go try it. And maybe you do, right? Because some of us like to try things.
Sure.
But it's not about mastering every skill or doing it all ourselves.
Or volunteering for everything, which...
Right. I volunteer for everything.
I
right?
know.
We're working on it. I don't have a whole year to get better at that, do I?
Right.
I needed to have been better at it yesterday.
You're getting better at it every week, though.
Right. Because why?
Because you practice it.
I practice it, but I said, I am going to be a person that volunteers less.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I hear myself volunteering, I'm going to walk it back.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to be a person that sets priorities and focuses on the priorities and quits adding on.
Yeah, and it also gives other people opportunities to step up and lead or step up and contribute to the community.
Right.
Right.
We've also talked about, I've decided I'm going to delegate, and I'm going to get better at delegating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm probably just going to have to hire somebody to help me.
Sure.
Thank you for listening to the Thrive in the Future podcast. Check us out on our website, thrivingthefuture.com. Also follow us on Twitter at thrivingthefute. And come join our community chat on Telegram. It has a link in the website.